You think it's love because your heart races when they text you, because your mind spirals when they don't, because you feel alive in their presence and lost in their absence. But tell me this, if it's really love, why does it feel like panic? Why do you spend more time thinking than feeling safe? Why does "I miss you" come with a knot in your chest, not warmth? Most people don't fall in love. They fall into attachment and call it love. Because it feels urgent. It feels necessary. It feels like you can't breathe without them. But here's the truth you may have never been told. Needing someone isn't the same as loving them. Craving someone's presence to avoid your emptiness. That's not intimacy. That's survival. Philosophers like Schopenhauer and Jung tried to warn us that what we call love might just be a beautifully disguised fear. And the terrifying part? Most of us never learned the difference. You say you love them, but is it really love? Or is it hunger? The kind of hunger that lives quietly behind your smile. The one that formed when you were still too young to name it. The one that whispers, "Please choose me, so I don't have to feel invisible again." That's the thing no one tells you. Most people don't fall in love. They fall into a craving to feel held, to feel noticed, to feel like you matter to someone, not because they're whole, but because they've been aching for so long. They'll settle for anything that feels like warmth. And when that person enters your life, it doesn't feel calm. It feels like a rescue. It feels like an escape. But escape isn't love. It's a relief. And relief is temporary. So when they pull away, even for a moment, you break down. Not because they're gone, but because you've lost the thing that silenced your suffering. Schopenhauer once hinted at this, that love, more often than not, is a projection of need, not a recognition of truth. And maybe that's the scariest part. We don't love people as they are. We love them as they feel our emptiness. And until we face that hunger, we'll keep calling the pain passion, and the ache. We'll keep mistaking it for love. You tell yourself it's love, but it feels more like something you can't live without. You wait for their message like it's oxygen. You replay their words, their smile, the way they made you feel, like you finally mattered, like you were finally safe. But that safety doesn't last. It fades. And when it does, the ache comes back even louder. So you hold on tighter. You try harder. You start questioning everything. Not because you're dramatic, but because you're afraid to lose the thing that makes you feel whole. This isn't love. This is an emotional addiction. It gives you highs, the kind that feels like euphoria, like you're seen for the first time in your life. But it also gives you lows, moments where you question your worth, doubt your place, and fear abandonment at every turn. You become addicted to the chase, to reassure you, to the hit of affection that soothes your nerves, but never heals the wound. Carl Jung might say this is where your shadow lives, the part of you that clings not to connection, but to survive, to the person who quiets the storm, even if they're the one who caused it. That's the cycle. You don't want them. You need the feeling they give you. And that feeling, it always fades. This pattern didn't start with them. It started long before you ever knew what love was supposed to feel like. Maybe you grew up chasing someone's attention, a parent who was there but not really present. Or maybe love was something you had to earn, by being quiet, by being good, by never needing too much. So you learned early, love isn't safe. Love disappears. Love leaves when you finally need it most. And now, even as an adult, that story lives in your nervous system. You still reach for people the same way you once reached for safety. Not because they're right for you, but because they feel familiar. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, We don't attract what we want. We attract what we are, or more honestly, what we haven't healed. So you meet someone who pulls away, and suddenly, you're 5 years old again, wondering what you did wrong. You're not in love. You're stuck in a memory, trying to rewrite the ending that hurt you the first time. And until you recognize that, you'll keep repeating it, calling it fate, calling it chemistry. But it's not. It's your past, trying to resolve itself through someone else's face. Sometimes, it's not the person you're in love with. It's the feeling they give you. The fantasy you build around who you think they are. You don't see them clearly. You see your hope, your longing, your need for something real, even if they never truly offered it. In the beginning, you fill in the gaps. You ignore the red flags. You highlight every moment they made you feel special, and silence every moment they didn't. Because the version of them in your mind is safer than the truth. You're not in love with them. You're in love with the story. And when that story starts to break, when their actions no longer match the dream you built, it hurts in a different way. Not just because they let you down, but because the illusion is crumbling. Schopenhauer believed we don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with the idea of what they could mean to us. Not for who they are, but for how they fix what we secretly lack. That's the illusion. And it's powerful. Because sometimes, we'd rather hold on to a beautiful lie than face the quiet truth. We were never really seen. We just wanted to be. You call it chemistry. That spark. That rush. That instant pull towards someone who feels magnetic. But what if that feeling isn't love at all? What if it's your trauma, recognizing something familiar? You think, this is different. But deep down, it's not. It's the same pattern dressed in new skin. The same emotional roller coaster that feels like home. Because chaos was the first language you ever learned. When love was inconsistent growing up, you don't look calm as an adult. You look for intensity, for highs and lows, for someone who makes you feel everything and nothing all at once. That's not fate. That's your nervous system looking for what it already knows. So when someone is warm one day and cold the next, you mistake that instability for passion. You confuse anxiety for excitement. And the worst part? You chase it. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. Carl Jung would say, this is your shadow in motion. The unresolved part of you choosing chaos, because stillness feels like danger. But real love doesn't flood you with fear. It doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't trigger your wounds and calls it growth. Sometimes, the strongest chemistry is just an old wound, begging to be reopened. Real love doesn't feel like a fire you can't control. It feels like warmth that never leaves. It doesn't rush in and sweep you off your feet. It stays, even when things get quiet. Even when the highs fade and the masks come off. You're not chasing. You're not performing. You're just there, being met. And for once, that's enough. But here's the strange part. If you've only known love as anxiety or intensity, real love can feel boring, almost too calm, like something must be missing. That's not because it is. It's because your body is used to love that hurts. Alain de Botton once said that love is not about finding someone who completes your fantasy. It's about choosing someone who is willing to walk with you through the ordinary. Someone who sees your wounds and doesn't run. Real love feels like peace, not because it's perfect, but because it's safe. You can disagree without fear. You can be vulnerable without punishment. You can let go of the act. And maybe that's why so many people walk away from it. Because real love doesn't rescue you. It doesn't entertain your chaos. It asks you to be still and let yourself be seen. And for some people, that's more terrifying than being alone. You say you want real love, but when it finally shows up, when love feels calm, honest, and steady, Something inside you hesitates, not because it's wrong, but because it feels unfamiliar. When you've built your identity around pain, peace can feel like a threat. You don't trust it. You keep waiting for it to fall apart. There's a strange comfort in suffering, in chaos, in relationships that mirror the wounds you've carried for years. At least you know how to survive that. But when love doesn't hurt, when it doesn't trigger your fears or demand you chase it, you question it, you sabotage it, you find a reason to run. Because to let go of the pain means letting go of the person you became to survive it. And that's terrifying. Carl Jung would call this the confrontation with the self, the moment you meet who you are beneath the defenses. And for many, that's more painful than heartbreak. Because pain has a purpose. It gives you something to hold. It gives your story shape. But healing strips away the story. It asks you to live without armor, without the chaos, without needing love to hurt in order to feel real. And until you stop fearing the silence, you'll keep calling the noise home. Real love doesn't hold on out of fear. It doesn't beg to be seen or chase to feel secure. It gives space. It shows up with honesty. And it chooses, not out of need, but from truth. But most of us never learned how to love that way. We were taught to hold on, even when it hurt. To fear losing the one person who made us feel seen. To treat love like survival, not something we could choose. So we try to control. We shape ourselves to be what they want. We ask for constant reassurance. We fear every shift in tone, every pause, every silence. But that's not love. That's fear disguised as care. That's possession dressed up as devotion. To love someone fully, you have to let them be free. Free to change. Free to feel. Free to walk away. And choose you again, not out of need, but truth. Carl Jung spoke of integration, becoming whole within yourself, so you no longer use others to complete you. Because the more whole you become, the less you need to hold love in a closed fist. You can open your hand. You can give love without trying to control its return. You can stay soft, even without guarantees. That's not a weakness. That's strength. And when you finally love without needing to possess, you stop losing yourself in the process. There comes a moment when you stop chasing love and start returning to yourself. Not the self that begged to be seen, not the one that changed to be accepted, but the one that was whole, even before anyone ever arrived. You begin to see the difference between craving and connection, between obsession and presence, between the storm and the stillness. Because real love doesn't rescue you. It meets you where you already are. Not to complete you, but to stand beside you. And when that shift happens, something inside settles. You no longer grip. You no longer prove. You no longer lose yourself just to feel chosen. Philosophers like Jung, Schopenhauer, and de Botton each pointed to the same quiet truth. That much of what we call love is born from a wound, not from wholeness. We chase what reflects our missing parts. We idolize what silences our pain, and we confuse intensity with depth. But love isn't meant to complete your story. It's meant to walk with you, once you've remembered how to stand. So if you still think love must hurt to be real, maybe it's not love you're looking for. Maybe it's healing. And maybe that healing begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself to be enough for someone else.